Hi friend, David here from Learn Stage Lighting, and in this video we want to talk about using non-standard lighting in our stage light show. So if you're doing stage lighting and you're working in a small venue, as we've been talking about this month, though this honestly applies to any size venue, we've talked a lot about the kind of lights you should use. We've talked about how to get really great control. And we've talked about lighting our environment with, typical stage type fixtures for the most part, right? If you're thinking about stage lighting, you're thinking about DMX, things I talk about this channel, then a lot of the time we're talking about LED pars, LECOs, wash and spot moving lights, beams, etc. And we're putting these all together to make a great look on stage. Sometimes what you need to make your stage pop and just get a little more impact isn't something you're going to find from a stage lighting manufacturer at all. Huh? That's right. So what kind of non-standard lighting can we use, and how is it particularly effective in a small venue? The first type that we can use is what I would call practicals, okay? What are practicals? Practicals, this term, is from the theater world. And in theater, or in corporate theater or whatever, a practical is just a lamp. Some kind of ordinary household light, a lamp, a chandelier, what have you, that is brought in for the stage set. Now, the benefit to practicals is if you use bulbs in them that are dimmable, either incandescent or LED, you can plug them into a DMX dimmer, or just plug them in and have them on all the time. And you get a really interesting look. You get something that feels a little more organic, almost, a little more homey. And you can really change up that look on stage just by adding in some lamps. For example, at my church, we have just some regular clip lights. They're kind of the hipster looking clip lights, but we went to the hardware store, got some clip lights, put them on our backdrop, and these ones are actually hung, but they were clipped previously. And what it did is it just, for not a lot of money, less money than you could buy decent LED lights for, we were just able to clip some lights on the backdrop and get some splashes of light across our stage. Okay, you can plug them into a DMX dimmer and you're ready to rock and roll. Okay, the other type of light that I like to talk about are pixels. So you might see behind me, and you might see in other videos, these pixel balls behind me. And maybe you've seen my video before where I made a DIY low-resolution LED wall. We used pixels like these, Christmas light style pixels. And the cool thing about these pixels, and why I get so excited about pixels and working with pixels, is because I see some major shifts happening in the world of pixels, okay? It used to be, say you scrolled on churchstagedesignIdeas.com and you were looking for something for your church or your small venue, you saw a lot of people using LED tape type products, that tape that comes on a reel. And LED tape certainly has its place, okay? But there are some serious downsides with the fact that you have to solder literally all your connections together. It's kind of a pain in the butt. You can really only use the tape once most of the time. Once you stick it to something or staple it to something, it's there forever. You may be able to keep that piece and reuse it, but still, it's a lot of work. And so what I like about pixels is today, especially if we go to the Christmas light world, pixels can be in any variety of shapes. So when we're talking about a pixel-based system, and I have some older videos on this, I'll link to one here about LED pixels, it's not quite the same as a DMX, but you don't also have to be intimidated by it either, okay? So pixels get controlled by a pixel controller, which is just a box that converts networked DMX typically, though there are some available that do regular DMX, and they convert that to the pixel control protocols. Now, if you're thinking about stringing up some of these cool, frosted festoon balls or doing a low-resolution LED wall, then these are typically going to be a WS2811 type pixel. That's just the name of the type. There are many types, but in the hobbyist world and in this kind of stuff, the WS2811 is the most popular that I see. Okay, and WS2811 pixels come in many formats. So as I've shown here, we've got these little guys that are on a string. There are flat ones on a string. This one here is a much bigger pixel that actually comes from the amusement park industry and actually kind of looks like eyes. Ah. Then pixels, we have these balls right here. And the cool thing about it is, though these are by far not all the types of pixels, you get the ability to control the color and pattern of every single light. Now, this is also why generally we're using network DMX to work with these pixel type objects, because ultimately only 170 RGB pixels will fit on a DMX universe, on a standard DMX cable. And when you're working with these kind of pixels, 170 just doesn't go that far. You need multiple universes. So when it comes to controlling these things, that means we've got to look at control a little bit differently. Okay, and this isn't a full guide on it here. This is more inspiration. I've got more guides on the site. I've got guides on Learn Stage Lighting Labs, as well as the previous video on pixels that I already talked about here. But when it comes to pixels, the cool thing is that if you buy pixels from the Christmas light world, like I do, like these pixel festoons or balls and etc., you might pay a little bit more than you would for a pixel strip up front. But you've got something that's much more durable, reusable, reformatable between different setups. That are also, if they come from Christmas Light World, they're generally waterproof as well, which, may or may not matter in your particular circumstance. Okay? Now, cost-wise, for a pixel controller, you can spend a couple $100 and get a pixel controller that can control anywhere from 1,000 to many thousand pixels. There's a lot of options, and it kind of depends on your needs as to which controller you go with. The biggest caveat with pixel controllers is that the controller often provides power, or even if they don't, the power is low voltage, and you want to keep the distance pretty short between your controller and your first pixel, like under 25 feet. So there's a lot of different options for controllers out there, but ultimately they're all going to work via networked DMX, and then you're going to be able to control lights like these, which on a cost basis, as we're talking, say you spend $200 on a controller, you can control a bunch of pixels with that. Then pixels can go anywhere from, under 25 cents a pixel for these ones on a string that you typically mount in something, to, maybe $1 or $2 for some really big pixels. Or these pixel balls right here, I believe they were $1.50 a pixel. So we're not breaking the bank here. Ultimately, the point of this video is to really inspire you and get you to think outside the box. Because when I'm looking at a small venue or I'm looking at a space and I want to create an impact with something new, with something fresh, with something that looks different, pixels like these can really bring that to a place like this. They can really bring something unique, something cool, and ultimately bring a more impact than buying, say, another LED par or two, right? Because if you're spending, say a couple $100 on an LED par and you want to get 2 or 3 more, maybe 4 more, say that's $800 to $1,200, okay? Depends on the pars you're buying, etc. You might look at your current rig and say, there could be a bigger impact here if I spent that $1,200 on pixel type products. Then I could get control of that, be able to do different visual content, etc. Now, the last piece of this, just kind of the last gotcha, is of course that these do take up a lot of channels, and you typically want to work with some sort of software that allows you to work with media in order to program these. That's what looks best. So there are lots of different options out there. 2 that I highly recommend is 1, Onyx. I talk about Onyx a lot here. And Onyx is pretty good with pixels. If you get a lot of pixels, the setup can take a little bit of extra time. But once you're set up, you're ready to roll. And Entex Elm. So Entex Elm is really cool, and neither of these companies paid me for this at all. But Entex has a pixel driver. They're Pixel Octo. They just re-released it, and it's only $200 now. They half the price. And when you buy it, you get a license for their Elm software. Okay, so the software is free if you buy an Entex controller, and then you're really easily able to go into Elm and remote control it with whatever other console you're using. Thus, you have all your channels in Elm, so you might have 8 universes in Elm from buying your Pixel Octo, and 8 universes in whatever program you're using. Say it's Onyx, say it's Lightkey, D-Pro, whatever. Those 8 universes in the lighting program may be more expensive than you want to spend, but in the Elm program, it's really not. So just some things to think about. I know I've said a lot in this video already, and I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, let me know below. Is this something you're thinking about doing? And if so, what pixel shape is the most interesting to you? Below, we'll also have links for some places to buy pixels, to find these Christmas lights. I know it can be a little bit difficult to find them. Some of the best places to do that. And also guide you towards a free guide to begin with lighting. So if you're watching this and you're like, gosh, I don't even know where to start with lighting, how do I begin? Hop over to learnstagelighting.com, click that link below. We've got a free guide, or it's on the screen, free guide to help you begin with lighting. And then here, we've got our next video. If you are interested in pixels, I've got my video on pixels here on YouTube that gives you a decent introduction and can start to get you thinking a little deeper about this if it's something you're interested in doing. And then, of course, Learn Stage Lighting Labs, as always, is the place where we have lots more info on this kind of stuff, and we'd love to help you. Have a great day. We'll see you guys in our next video. Thanks.